Welcome, I'm Todd Robbins. August 23rd. Some abysmal things happened on this day in the past. Let me tell you about a few of them. Shall I? Yes. Starting off, 1305. On this day in 1305, William Wallace. He had been arrested. He was a guy who, Braveheart, the movie Braveheart was based upon his life. He was Braveheart. The guy caused Scotland to rise up. It didn't turn out well for anyone. And he had been captured a while back and put on trial, found guilty. And today was his day of the execution. He wasn't just executed. No. First, he was stripped naked. And then he was dragged through the streets of London by a horse. And then he was hung. But it didn't end there. Oh, no, because they didn't completely hang him. They kept him alive just long enough so that they could then cut off his the technical term is emasculate him. And then they disemboweled him and then burned his guts. There, they ripped him open, took the guts out, and burned it while he was still alive so he could watch it. And then, if that wasn't enough, they beheaded him, and then they cut him into 4 pieces. They weren't screwing around. And forgive me for going into all this gruesome detail, but it's just an important thing to remember. If you're having a bad day, just remember it's not as bad as William Wallace had on this day in 1305. All right? Put it in perspective. On this day in 1628, a fellow named George Villiers was assassinated. He was 35 years old, and he was the first Duke of Buckingham, and he was an English courtier. He was very close to King James I. Very close to King James I. Wink, wink. And after King James's death, he fell from favor. No one really liked the guy because he was very close to the king. And an army officer named John Felton, killed him, stabbed him. There you go. 1628. 1926. Many a tear was shed on this day because Rudolph Valentino, the Italian actor and silent movie star, the first big sex symbol of movies. On this day in 1926, he died. He was 31 years old, very unexpected. He had a relapse of pleuritis, the respiratory condition, and it killed him. And his funeral was a madhouse. Thousands of mourners showed up, blocked the streets. It was practically a riot of grief over the death of the great Rudolph Valentino. On this day, a year later, in 1927, Nicola Sacco and Bartholomew Vanzetti, Sacco and Vanzetti, the 2 anarchists, were executed in Massachusetts. Rather controversial, still to this day, kind of being argued and discussed as, were they political pawns? What were they guilty of? So on and so forth. Very dark day in recent history, 1989. Yusuf Hawkins was shot by 30 whites in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. It was a racially motivated attack. It was an awful, awful moment in New York history. It caused a great deal of racial unrest that goes on to this day. On this day in 2006, a wonderfully nutty fellow, Ed Warren, passed away. He was a paranormal investigator. He and his wife, the Warrens, been immortalized, glorified more than immortalized, in the Conjuring movies and that whole franchise, making them look much better than I think they deserve. Yeah, they made up a lot of stuff, in my opinion. And he died on this day in 2006. He was 79 years old. On this day, is a birthday of Louis XVI, the King of France. He was eventually, of course, guillotined. I was born in Versailles, excuse me, and died in 1793. But he was born on this day in 1754. On this day, also another birthday, River Phoenix, the wonderful young actor who had such a promising start and then spiraled downward thanks to drug addiction and ended up overdosing at the Viper Club in Los Angeles in 1993. He was born on this day in 1970. On this day in 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius begins to stir during the festival day of Vulcan, ironically, the feast day of Vulcan, who was the Roman god of fire. And if you know anything, sometime later, Vesuvius erupts and destroys the city of Pompeii. On this day in 1500, Governor Francisco de Bombardier arrives in the Indies, and he's there for a specific reason, and that was to arrest the former governor, Christopher Columbus, and send him back to Spain in chains. The mighty have fallen. Interesting, in 1942, the end of an era happened during World War II. It was the last cavalry charge in history. It takes place in Russia. The Italian Cavalry charged against the Soviet infantry. It didn't go well for the Italians. On this day in 1996, Osama bin Laden, maybe you heard of him, issues a message entitled "A Declaration of War Against the Americans Who Occupy the Lands of Two Holy Places." I think we know how that played out. On this day, starting of something very bad in 2005, Hurricane Katrina forms in the Bahamas. It later becomes a Category 5 hurricane, not an earthquake, but hurricane, that just decimated New Orleans and a number of places. 2011, Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi is overthrown after the National Transitional Council forces takes control of the Bab al-Zizia compound. It was during the Libyan civil war of 2011. And again, didn't end well for Muammar, did it? And finally, on this day in 2015, a 12-year-old boy trips. He falls down. 12-year-old boys often fall down, but on this day in 2015, a 12-year-old boy trips and rips the 17th century painting Flowers by Pablo Pobora. A lovely little painting was destroyed. It was worth $1.5 million. There you go. And there you have it. Well, if you enjoyed this video, by all means like it and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I do these videos for you and you know who you are. So by all means, like it, subscribe, hit the notifications so you'll be warned when the next one comes out. That is, if you survive all the abysmal things that will be happening to you on this day, today. And if you do survive, well, I hope to see you back here tomorrow. And if you don't survive, do me a favor if you would. As you are floundering there in your final moments, if there are people around you and you have this opportunity, just say something random. Say something, random, such as cauliflower or moose or Saskatchewan. Just say something random as your final words, and just leave them guessing as to what the hell you meant by that. It's sort of a rosebud kind of moment, if those of you know Citizen Kane. Yeah, always leave them guessing. That's what I recommend. I'm Todd Robbins once again. And on this day, good luck.